friends, I am Arpit and I'm here with today's analysis. Today is 2nd of July and we are going to deal with three very important topics which are in news. The first is Bhartiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita 2023. This is one among the three criminal laws which has been into force since 1st of July 2024. This replaces the CRPC of 1898, that is Criminal Procedure Code. Criminal Procedure Code dealt with the procedures of arrest, the procedures of bail and prosecution. Some changes have been made in this, like, for example, forensic investigation has been made mandatory, in which the sentence is of 7 years or more. Proceedings in the electronic mode have been permitted since we are in this digital age that had to be done. And various other provisions which make this particular code the code of the 21st century. It rightly has replaced the age old code which was made by the Britishers. The second is Bhartiya Sakshya Adhiniyam 2023. This is the third of the criminal acts which have come into force on 1st of July. This is replacing the Indian Evidence Act. The Indian Evidence Act, which called for furnishing primary and secondary evidences. This distinction has been maintained. But yes, in the earlier Indian Evidence Act, electronic evidences were considered as secondary evidences, but in this new law, they have been now considered as primary evidences. There are certain shortcomings also of this law, which needs to be addressed with time. Next is Project Nexus. Project Nexus is a project which is a multilateral one where multiple countries from Southeast Asia like Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, and Thailand are part of it along with India. What will they do? They will make the international payments settle within seconds. Wasn't India part of international payment settlement mechanism earlier? Yes, India was, but that was largely a bilateral mechanism. This one is a multilateral mechanism. Whoever becomes part of it, and we are dealing with payments with respect to that country, instantly those payments will be settled. This is the significance of Project Nexus. Then we'll move on to the MCQs and then the discussions of the MCQs of yesterday. So the three bills, the three criminal bills, this one, that is Bhartiya Nyaya Sanhita, was discussed yesterday. It replaced the Indian Penal Code of 1860. These two we will be discussing in today's class. That is Bhartiya Sakshya Bill, which is going to replace the Indian Evidence Act of 1872. And next is the Bhartiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita Bill, that is going to replace the Code of Criminal Procedure, that is CRPC of 1898. All these were British era laws which did not entail provisions of today, and hence it is rightly said by the government that these new bills or these new laws will be representing the new India. Starting with the first, that is Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita 2023, which has replaced the Criminal Procedure Code, that is CRPC, is going to deal with three major aspects. First is procedures for arrest. Second is prosecution and the bail. So these are the three very important things for delivering justice. And all these things were there entailed in the earlier CRPC, now in this Bhartiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita of 2023. This has been enforced on 1st of July 2024 along with two other criminal laws, that is Bhartiya Nyaya Sanhita and the Bhartiya Sakshya Bill. The key provisions of this BNSS, which can be called as the new CRPC. Okay. So first is that BNSS mandates forensic investigation for offenses punishable with 7 years of imprisonment or more. So if any offense is committed where the sentence is of 7 years or more, for that kind of offense, it is now mandatory that forensic investigation happens. Forensic experts will visit crime scenes to collect forensic evidence and record the process. This definitely will make the investigations more sound and more robust. All trials, inquiries, and proceedings may be held in electronic mode. It is not compulsory, but if need be, they may be held in electronic mode. The courts are becoming e-courts. Digital India is definitely impacting the judicial system of the country as well. So, rightly, this has been incorporated in that particular code which deals with the procedures of prosecution. Production of electronic communication devices likely to contain digital evidence will be allowed for investigation, inquiry, or trial. So, this is making these laws in line with the present day India or the present day world, we can say. If a proclaimed offender has absconded, if he's not or she's not available to evade trial and there is no immediate prospect of arresting him or her, the trial can be conducted and judgment can be pronounced in his absence. Earlier, this was not possible. You commit the crime, you abscond, the case will go on and on and on and on. But now, in this case, this will not happen. The lawyer of the absconder will be mandated to be attended in the court and present the case, and the judgment can be pronounced in the absence of that offender. Along with specimen signatures or handwriting, finger impressions, and voice samples may be collected for investigation. These are elements of biometrics. So they can be collected. Samples may be taken from a person who has not been arrested as well. So this is one such provision which has been added. Now there are certain criticisms also to this CRPC. First is this BNSS allows 15 days of police custody. See, there are two kinds of custodies. One is police custody, another is judicial custody. If a presumed offender is given police custody, the police has the prerogative over that custody. Custody can be kept according to the procedures established by the police. The other kind of custody is judicial custody, where the courts order that this person should be kept in custody and the orders of the courts should be followed by the law enforcement agencies while that person is in custody. So, 15 days of police custody is allowed under BNSS, which can be authorized in parts during the initial 40 or 60 days of the 60 or 90 days period of the judicial custody. The judicial custody is for the maximum period of 60 to 90 days. And, you know, in addition to the judicial custody, police custody of for 15 days can also be there. And this police custody can be there in the initial 40 or 60 days. The power to attach property from proceeds of crime. Now, if someone has, done a crime, especially with respect to money laundering, and from that proceeds of crime means money laundering, you get the money which is laundered, you buy any property. So, if it is suspected that that property has been brought from the proceeds of the crime, that crime is money laundering, that property can be attached. Now, CRPC, what CRPC says, the power to attach property from the proceeds of the crime does not have safeguards provided in the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. There are no safeguards provided that in this condition only property can be attached, that condition only property can be attached, in this condition property cannot be attached. Like these are the safeguards. They are not there. If the authorities feel that this particular property has been linked to the proceeds of the crime, that property can be attached. Can be attached means it can be sealed by the authorities. Then next is CRPC provides for bail for an accused who has been detained for half of the maximum imprisonment. CRPC means the older law. So let's suppose the maximum imprisonment time for a particular offense committed is 8 years and a person has served 4 years, then according to CRPC that person was eligible for bail. But here in this, the BNSS denies this facility for anyone facing multiple charges. If there are more than one charges, then you cannot get bail after serving the half of the sentence of the maximum punishable sentence for that particular crime. As many cases involve charges under multiple sections, this may limit such bail. So this is there. This is making bail provisions more stringent for the people. The use of handcuffs means hatkadi is permitted in a range of cases, including organized crime, contradicting Supreme Court directions. Supreme Court has given a direction that handcuffing should not be there. But yes, this BNSS is allowing handcuffing in certain cases like organized crime and all. Supreme Court in its judgment clearly said that this handcuffing denies the right to life of the people. Doesn't matter that person is a convict or not. Handcuffing should not be done. So these are the criticisms of this particular bill. Next is the Bhartiya Sakshya bill, now which has become an act and has now been enforced also. This is going to replace the Indian Evidence Act of 1872. Now, this particular law contains the provisions of IEA, including those on confessions, relevancy of facts, and burden of proof. So, like burden of proof, like let's suppose a person has committed a crime. So, it is the burden of proof on that person to prove that he or she has not committed. If he or she is not able to prove that, then that person will be convicted. This is the concept of burden of proof. These kind of provisions have been continued in the Bhartiya Sakshya bill. These were there in the Indian Evidence Act also. So, this is one such thing. Now, provisions under this particular law. First is the IEA, that is the older law, provides for two kind of evidences: documentary and oral. So, evidences, two types. Evidences are of two types: documentary and oral. Documentary includes primary, means original documents, and secondary, that proves the content of the original. So, documentary, we have further divisions: primary and secondary. The BSB, that is Bharati Sakshya Bill, retains this distinction of primary, secondary, documentary, oral. These kind of distinctions are there in the new law as well. It includes electronic records in the definition of documents as well. Electronic records, again, since the things are getting digitalized, so the electronic records will also be counted as evidence. Earlier, in the Indian Evidence Act, electronic records were counted as secondary evidence. Now, in this new Bhartiya Sakshya Bill, electronic records will be counted as primary. Under the IEA, electronic records are categorized as secondary evidence. The BSB classifies electronic records as primary evidence. It expands such records to include information stored in semiconductor memory or any communication devices, smartphones, laptops, etc., etc. Under the IEA, secondary evidence may be required under various conditions, such as when the original is in the possession of the person against whom the document is sought to be proved or has been destroyed. The BSB adds that secondary evidence may be required if the genuineness of the document itself is in question, else it may not be required. So, secondary evidences are those which back the primary evidences. If the primary evidence is in itself enough, then the secondary evidence will not be required. So, this is the thing which we need to understand and know. There are certain issues with this law as well. What are the issues? Now, the Supreme Court has recognized that electronic records may be tampered with. They can be tampered with because there is technology. So, there are people who have that skill of tampering with that technology as well. While the BSB provides for the admissibility of such records, there are no safeguards to prevent the tampering and contamination of such kind of records. So there should have been provisions with respect to that also, and which I sincerely think that this particular drawback of the Bhartiya Sakshya Bill or the new this Evidence Act should be addressed timely. Then, under the IEA, a fact discovered due to information received from an accused in police custody may be provable. The BSB retains this provision. Courts and committees noted the fact that may be discovered in police custody be coercion and without adequate safeguards. So, let's suppose a person who has been convicted of any or who has been, I would say, sus- who is a suspect for committing a crime, and that person has been arrested by the police. So, any kind of statements given by that person in the police custody was counted as proof earlier, was counted as evidence earlier. The Bharatiya Sakshya Bill continues with that. The courts in the past have said that, you know, those kind of statements may be given by the persons due to coercion or forcefulness of the police. Then, in that case, justice in true sense will not be delivered. And that has been continued in this BSB as well. So that is one such issue or criticism of this bill. The IEA and the BSB allow such information to be admissible if it was obtained when the accused was in police custody, but not if he was outside. The Law Commission also recommended to remove this distinction earlier when the Indian Evidence Act was there. It was not removed, and it has been continued in this Bhartiya Sakshya bill as well. So these are the major issues with this particular law. Now we have discussed these three laws, and these three laws are enough for, I would say, UPSC point of view. If anything in future comes with respect to these laws and they become important, because IPC, CRPC and all are not as such in detail required in UPSC. But yes, if anything comes and is has become controversial or has a lot of relevance, it is in news too much, then obviously we will be covering those aspects as well in the future. Next is Project Nexus. So with globalization, economies got integrated. Globalization simply means flow of people, goods, services, information, ideas from one country to the other country or from one region to the other region. And when goods, services, people are flowing from one region to the other region, obviously payments will also flow from one region to the other region. And there should be a mechanism set for settling the payments in real time almost. This gives a lot of confidence to the businesses. And for that purpose, RBI has initiated, or RBI has become part of the Project Nexus. In fact, RBI has become one of the founding members of Project Nexus. So, RBI has joined Project Nexus, a multilateral international initiative to enable instant cross border retail payments by interlinking domestic fast payment systems. An example of domestic fast payment systems for India is UPI. The linkage, India's UPI and fast payment systems of Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand will be interlinked through Project Nexus. Going ahead, the platform can be extended to more countries, like Indonesia is expected to be part of this multilateral forum. So remember the word, it is multilateral international initiative. Now about this Project Nexus, it is conceptualized by the Innovation Hub of Bank for International Settlements, BIS. It seeks to enhance cross-border payments by connecting multiple domestic instant payment systems globally, like India's domestic instant payment systems connected with other instant payment systems of other countries. If the first BIS Innovation Hub project in the payments area to move towards live implementation. Now the question is that wasn't India collaborating with other countries for settlement of payments, retail payments? India was, but those were bilateral mechanisms. Like India did this bilateral mechanism with UAE for settling UPI payments and all, with Indonesia for settling UPI payments and all. But this is Project Nexus is a multilateral forum or a multilateral grouping. Now there are presently 5 countries in this. If any country gets added in the future, then automatically India's fast payment system, that is UPI, will get connected with the fast payment system of that country. We will not have to do that bilateral mechanism with that country. This is the significance, or this is the relevance of this Project Nexus. The Reserve Bank of India has been collaborating bilaterally with various countries to link India's fast payment system, that is UPI, with their respective FPS for cross-border person-to-person and person-to-merchant payments. So those were bilateral mechanisms or bilateral agreements. This is a multilateral agreement which will automatically, if any country is added in the future, their fast payment system and UPI will be linked. Their fast payment systems and the fast payment systems of other countries will be linked. It is like this. What would happen to these bilateral mechanisms after we have become part of Project Nexus? Will these bilateral mechanisms come to a rest? No, those bilateral mechanisms can continue. This multilateral mechanism can continue parallelly. So while India and its partner countries can continue to benefit through such bilateral connectivity of FPS, a multilateral approach will be provided further impetus to the RBI's efforts in expanding international reach of Indian payment systems. So they are complementing each other. They are not contradictory to each other. How much time does payment take to get transferred? Now, in over 70 countries today, domestic payments reach their destinations in seconds at near zero cost to the sender or recipient. This is thanks to the growing availability of instant payment systems all across the world. Connecting these IPS to each other can enable cross border payments from sender to recipient within 60 seconds in most of the cases, according to BIS. So within seconds, it will happen almost real time, means maximum within a 1 minute, payments will be settled. Payments getting settled means you transfer from here and the payment gets credited into the account of the receiver. That is what settlement of payment is. Benefits of Nexus. Project Nexus is designed to standardize the way IPS connect to each other. So multilateral forum or multilateral grouping it will be, and there will be standard set ki bhai, in these way the settlement will be there. Rather than a payment system operator building custom connections for every new country that it connects to, the operator can make one connection to the Nexus platform. As I told you that in future, if any country gets added to this Nexus, then automatically the fast payment systems of all the countries present over there will be connected to that country's fast payment system. We don't have to go bilaterally and manually do, automatically it will be done. This single connection allows a fast payment system to reach all other countries on the network. Nexus could significantly accelerate the growth of instant cross border payments. So, this is what are the benefits of Nexus. Member countries of Nexus. The Project Nexus aims to connect the FPS of 4 association of Southeast Asian nations. There are 10 countries in ASEAN. So 4 of these 10 countries, that is Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand, they are there, and India. So these 5 countries are there whose fast payment systems have been connected through Nexus. And these 5 countries are known to be the founding members of Nexus. Indonesia is expected to join this platform in the future. And apart from Indonesia, if this platform is successful, we can see more countries getting into this. But we should be proud of the fact that India is one of the founding members of this particular multilateral group. Now comes the MCQs. The first is, for which of the following there are provisions in the Bhartiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita 2023? Procedure for arrest, prosecution, bail. You have to answer the correct one. Which one is the correct answer? Easy. That is, consider the following statements and mark the correct one. BNSS mandates forensic investigation for offences punishable with 5 years of imprisonment or more. According to BNSS, if the convict has absconded, judgment can be pronounced. Which of these statements are correct? Read very carefully and answer. It might seem easy, but it is not so easy. Again, consider the statements and mark the correct one. The first is Bhartiya Sakshya bill has no distinction between the primary and the secondary evidence. Electronic records were classified as secondary evidence under the Indian Evidence Act. Which among these statements are correct? Only one, only two, both one and two, neither one nor two. Fourth, which agency in India is part of the Project Nexus? Ministry of Finance, Government of India, Reserve Bank of India, National Payments Corporation of India, which holds or which is responsible for UPI, which has developed UPI. And last is none of the above. So carefully answer this question. Relatively easy it is. And the last question, which of the following countries are founding members of Project Nexus? India, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand. So see the correct combination and mark it accordingly. Now we come to the MCQs of 1st of July, that is yesterday. Consider the following offences and mark which of them have been defined for the very first time under Bhartiya Nyaya Sanhita. Love jihad, sedition, fake news, both A and C. See, sedition was already there in the older IPC, fake news provision were also there in the IPC. So since both A and C cannot be true, love jihad is the correct answer. That is A for this question. Consider the following statements and mark the correct one. The BNS has scrapped section 377 of IPC, which criminalized homosexuality. This statement is correct. It has been completely scrapped. The BNS aims to establish gender neutrality. Yes, this statement is also correct. We've seen 3 examples through which the gender neutrality has been tried to achieve by this Bhartiya Nyaya Sanhita. So both 1 and 2 are correct. Which of the following offenses are defined as crimes under BNS? Love jihad is defined as a crime. Organized crime, yes. Sedition, yes. Spreading fake news, yes. Homosexuality is not a crime since 377 has been deleted. So the correct answer is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So section 377 of IPC deleted. So homosexuality is not a crime under it. Homosexuality in case of forcefulness is also not a crime. Consider the following statements and mark the correct one. First is sedition has a new name, that is Rajdrah under BNS. This statement is correct. Earlier it was Rajdrah, now it is Deshdrah. The scope of sedition has increased under the BNS. Yes. Anyone who is financing such kind of activities which is leading to sedition, this has been added, which is increasing the scope of sedition. So B is going to be the correct answer of this. So second statement is correct, first is wrong. And the last question, consider the following statements and mark the correct one. Terrorism has been defined under the BNS. This statement is correct. The BNS is the first law to have an explicit definition of terrorism in India. This statement is wrong. There is a definition, existing definition of terrorism in UAPA. BNS will supersede the UAPA when it comes to cases related to terrorism. It is not clear whether it will or it will not. So this statement is also wrong. Only one is correct. And the D option, which we missed out yesterday, was all of the above. So this is wrong, this is wrong, all of the above is wrong. Only one is the correct answer to this question. Now, with this, we come to an end of today's session. I will be seeing you tomorrow now with more such informative news pieces. I don't think so I need to explain more. Namaste. Jai Hind.